What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Bardock. And so here we have Bardock posed and out of the packaging. Before we take a look at the figure, let's actually run through his accessories really fast. Bardock does come with several different face options. We do get the anger expression that he has on him right now. We do get a smirking expression. We get an expression where he's gritting his teeth. And then, of course, we do get a yelling expression. Bardock also comes with two different tufts of his front hair. We do get one piece for his scouter. Then we do get one piece for his ear. He also does come with a scouter, which does fit on any of the faces. And then he also does come with an ear, which also does fit on some of the other faces. He also comes with 3 pairs of hands and an extra one. We get a pair of fists. We get a pair of key blasting hands. We get a pair of clenching hands. Then we have a right clenching hand with a port on it for his effect piece. And then his effect piece is, of course, the Riot Javelin or the Final Spirit Cannon, whatever you want to call it, which is a great deal of accessories for Bardock. He doesn't come with the most, but each of them do work for him. Now, I'm not a fan of the scouter and ear. I don't like how they did it. We'll talk about that right now. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually take a closer look at Bardock. So here we have a closer look at the Dragon Ball Z version of Bardock. And yes, I do mean Dragon Ball Z version. There are 2 different Bardocks. We have the Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Plus. And then we have the Dragon Ball Z version. And this is the Dragon Ball Z version of Bardock. Now, what we have here is a really nice figure with some overcomplicated parts. I don't know why SH Figuarts is doing this oversimplification of certain aspects of the figures, and we'll get into that right now. One thing I don't like is the way they did his ear and scouter. They did it perfectly with Vegeta, how they had 2 different headpieces, one that the scouter went on the ear and then one where the scouter didn't, and then the scouter was interchangeable that way. For Bardock here, they kind of did something a little bit too complicated. So what you have to do to switch out is remove his front hairpiece, remove his face, and by removing his face you also remove the scouter. Now, as you can see, the scouter does have a peg right here, and then he also has a peg on the inside. The way that works is you're supposed to take his ear and peg that in like this, and then that little peg piece goes into this little port right here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a port right there. And when you do line them up, Bardock now has his ear exposed, although it's not the best look because we do have a seam line going through that. I don't know why they just didn't give us a faceplate and then just have the scouter like go over. That would have been better than the way they did it here. But yeah, they oversimplified Bardock, which I'm not a fan of. And then one thing I'm also not a fan of is how they oversimplified the way you change his faces. You take his bandana off and you plug the face into the bandana. Yeah, they overcomplicated Bardock for some reason. They really didn't need to do that. They could have just painted the face with the bandana on it and I would have been okay with that, but it's more parts than what they really need to be making, and that does make it a little bit tricky. Now, like I said, he does have 2 pieces of front piece for his hair. This one does go with the scouter. The one for his ear kind of does have this little bang going more toward the ear, but you can honestly just use this same hair piece for both of them and nothing changes. That's what really irks me, is that they included a separate hairpiece for the ear and it changes nothing. If anything, the second hairpiece can only work with the ear because that bang right here at the end gets in the way of the scouter. So again, don't know why they overcomplicated Bardock's engineering, but they just did. So enough about that. Let's actually talk about the detailing on the figure. Now, they did a really great job with Bardock. I'd be lying to you if I said they half-assed this figure. Aside from the over-engineering on his head, everything else on this figure is superb. One of the best SH Figuarts Dragon Ball figures that we've gotten in a long time. I really do love the head sculpt on Bardock. It is perfect. And it's not just a reuse of Goku's head, which I really do like that. It's actually Bardock's. And the telltale sign is a bandana in the back. Something you really wouldn't think about too much, but they added that little detail, which looks so much nicer than if it wasn't there. If I could change one thing on this figure, it's definitely the scar. They could have made the scar a little bit darker, not so bright, but yeah, it's there, and it's totally Bardock's scar, so it absolutely works for this figure. So having a look at his torso here, Bardock is wearing the slicker armor, the more streamlined armor where it doesn't have the shoulder pads going off to the side, which I do like that look. It's not quite Vegeta's armor because this is two pieces where Vegeta just has a single piece of armor up here, but that's going into technicalities. We're just looking at the figure, and one thing I do like is the color that they went with. When they first showed off Bardock, all the green on him seemed kind of yellowish, like it had too much yellow in it. They actually went back and reworked it so the green is actually green. It could do a little more lime green in it than yellow, but it's more green than yellow, so I do like that. So having a look at the rest of his costume, Bardock I don't think he wears a shirt underneath his armor. I think it's just the armor and then his pants, and I think that's it. You can see he does have these arm wraps. They're not gloves, they're more like wraps that just go around his hand and arm. So I really do like that. It's really cool. Really love the color that they went with, and I believe it's a separate piece. That's why it matches the bandana here, is because they're a separate piece. Obviously the part on the hand is painted, so that does cause a little bit of a discoloration, but it's not too noticeable. So I really do like that. And you can see I have one with the fist right now. Now, one thing I do need to point out, and this is just a cautionary tale, and it's something I'm noticing. The chest piece right here, whenever you use this joint, has a tendency to rub up against his abdomen part. So you want to try to move that as far forward as you can while articulating this figure, just so you don't rub the paint. I don't know if you guys can see, but there is a little bit of paint rub on mine where the two pieces of plastic are starting to rub up against each other, and it is wearing out the paint right there. So just use caution when articulating Bardock, especially right here. And that's how it goes for all armored figures. Really like the way they did his tail. It's not like they did with Vegeta. It looks the same, but the way they engineered it is that the base of the tail is just a plug in the figure, and the tail piece is actually a loose piece. Like everything on the tail is loose. Like if you really wanted to have a tailless Bardock, you can. I'm not going to pop anything off, at least intentionally, but that is something to note. Really do like the sheen on the armor. That's a really nice little touch, and the sheen difference from his armor to his pants is really nice. I do love the more matte and satin look versus the sheen on his armor. And it's the same color, just the finish is different, and I really do like that little detail. Going down to his feet here, he does have the same wraps going over his boots, and he has that more traditional ratted style boot where we have the panel lining on the sides, and he probably has a panel lining up here on his boot, but you can see he is wearing the wraps, which does cover it really nicely. And I do love that the sheen is here just like it is on the armor, and then we have that same green right here on his toes. So overall, Bandai has done a fantastic job with this figure, and I hope I did a really good job of explaining the detailing on him. He's just such a nice figure, and again, this shows the quality of work that Bandai can do when they actually put the effort into a figure. Really, really liking Bardock right here. So, with his details out of the way, guys, let's actually move on to some comparisons. And so here we have Bardock posed next to a Marvel Legends Cyclops and a DC Multiverse Superman. Here we have Bardock posed next to a WWE Elite Scale figure and a Mezco 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man. Here we have Bardock posed next to a Lightning Collection White Ranger and a Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And finally, here we do have Bardock posed next to the Saiyan raised on Earth Goku. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually have a look at Bardock's articulation. Bardock still has the standard SH Figuarts ball joint here at the head, so he can look up to about that far. It can hinge down, which looks really nice. We do get some really nice head tilt on that ball. Well, it's slight ball joint swivel. It's a ball hinge, so you can move that hinge to have better side-to-side pivot. But I actually have it for up and down movement because I think that works better. Most of the tilting I have right here at the neck, and it's a really nice ball joint. Really love the way they engineered his neck. You can see it doesn't break the sculpt like it did on the Ginyu Force, so I really do like that. It's a solid sculpt, and they did an excellent job just sculpting him. So his shoulder is on a ball joint, but you don't get too much pivot or forward and back movement, which is a little bit unfortunate. But they did include a butterfly hinge, so you can bring his arm out, and it does look pretty decent from the back. His arm does go out to the side really nicely. It goes a little bit better than horizontal. It does go all the way around, no problem. Just be careful for the hair. You might end up butting up against that if you rotate his arm and really don't think of the placement of his arm. We do have a bicep swivel here on Bardock, although mine is a little bit stiff, but it does function perfectly fine, so I do like that. We do get a double bend here at the elbow. The bottom joint seems to be a little bit looser than the top joint. Not super loose, but the top joint is obviously stiffer, so we do get a really good elbow joint here with Bardock. We do have our traditional ball hinge here, so you can have his arm going up and down. We can rotate that to have in and out movement, so I do appreciate that. We do have a double ball joint here at his torso, so we have a ball joint going up into his torso and then a ball joint going into his abs, so he can lean back about that far. Just be aware when you do that, it does gap the figure up, and he does get really nice crunch, but again, we do have a gap here on the back. Does pivot to the side really nicely, so really good range here on Bardock. It actually might also be on a hinge because you can pop it up a little bit and give him a little bit more movement forward, so I do like that. We have another ball joint here at the waist, although it doesn't move all too much, as you can see. Does pivot side to side a little bit, and that's where most of the rotation is going to come. Even though we do get some rotation here at the top, most of the rotation is here at the bottom. His armor bits do have a hinge right here, and they are properly hinged, so they're attached to the armor at the right joint. They're not sticking out and down, so they do get out of the way of articulation, so that's really, really nice. Legs do kick forward to about there, kick back, and you saw the outward movement is pretty good. Swivel at the thigh. We have a double bend here at the knee, works no problem. No boot rotation, but we do have, it feels like a double ball joint here at the ankle because it can pivot side to side like that. We do have some rotation. Goes forward about that much, goes back. No, it's just a single ball joint, so it's just a ball joint going into the ankle, giving us some rocker, some forward and back movement, and of course rotation. And then finally we do have a generous toe hinge. So overall, Bardock here has some superb articulation, so I do like that. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get him posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the SH Figuarts Bardock posed for my final thoughts. And overall, I am absolutely floored by how good this figure is. Bandai did an amazing job with Bardock, which is saying something, seeing as how they do a great job with a lot of figures. They went the extra mile for Bardock here. Now, I am a little bit upset that they over-engineered his head just a little bit, but that's more of a personal gripe than a knock against the figure. I know some people might have an issue with it. Some people might think it's better. It's entirely subjective on how you really feel about it. Me, I think it overcomplicates the figure, but it doesn't take away from how good this figure is actually done, and Bandai nailed it with this figure. Despite the fact that we saw some miscoloration from the promo pics, they fixed it by the time the figure actually got released, so can't really fault them on the color. It looks superb. Now, Aside from that personal gripe with the head, I do feel like he does have a slight issue where it comes to the paint apps that scrape with the way his armor moves around. You gotta be very conscious about that because the white seems to scrape off really, really easy. Just be aware of how you're posing him and make sure you're not rubbing plastic on plastic because that will rub off the paint. If you can avoid that problem, this Bardock figure is one of the best figures that we've gotten out of Bandai in a really, really long time. And if you're a fan of Dragon Ball Z, the father of Goku, or just want a really awesome Saiyan in your collection, Bardock is the way to go. Now, the good thing about this figure is he is still available on sites like Big Bad Toy Store and Amazon, where I picked up mine for about $60. Bardock is worth every penny. The amount of detailing on him is great. Articulation is superb, and I'm having so much fun posing him around. You're going to have just as much fun as I am with this figure. There's really hardly anything to not like about this figure aesthetically, so this figure does a really good job of everything. So if you are looking for Bardock, go ahead and get him now before he sells out, because I can imagine he's going to be a very sought after figure once he is out of print. So with that being said, guys, I'm King of Dragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews as well as all my other SH Figuarts and Dragon Ball Z videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you'd like to see me review, let me know down in the comments, and if it's in my collection, I'll definitely have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, and as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.